Okay, Marion County Commission meeting. We'll just do the flag salute again.
Yep.
Slam bang. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Monday, 7/2025, 12:30 p.m. Start off with a public forum. Anybody in the room? Sit up here and state your name for everybody online and in the room.
Good afternoon. My name is Nathan Brunner, 3581 Pawnee, Ramona. I sent some information to Tina. I'm hoping that all you guys had that and hopefully had a chance to read it. If you don't mind, could I request 5 minutes instead of 30 to try to get it?
I would give you the time for the letter.
Okay. I won't speed read through it and so we can actually understand it. Good afternoon, commissioners again. As you probably are aware by now, the communities of Tampa and Ramona are being affected by a water emergency involving Marion County Rural Water District Number 1. In the last several months, the problems are lasting longer, usually 1 to 2 days of dirty water. Brown or black water is actually what we've had. This last event has lasted 6 to 9 days, and actually this morning we've heard some are still affected, so that would be almost day 10 for them, depending on where you live within the water district. We only get responses from the water board if we initiate with questions, and when we get responses, we are simply flushing the lines. We're never given timelines on those, when it's gonna clear up, they don't know. When we send pictures of our brown, black water, we are told the water is just a little high in iron, and the dirty look is from manganese, but it's okay to drink, according to the water district. Many have reached out to KDHE, who advised that they have had many complaints already. We were also told the samples show water is normal, but they never give dates on when they test those, so that could be before or after the water issues. We just actually got word today that they're coming out to test, so of course our water is finally starting to clear up, but they'll get test results based on what the clear water is. When reaching out to the Kansas Rural Water Association, General Manager Elmer Ronenbaum quickly responded that the pictures we showed, the water quality is not usable. He also shared that there's a lot of assistance that could be given to the Rural Water District, one, for immediate needs and for future repairs on the infrastructure by way of grants. They've been trying to assist them since 1991, where they have helped, but they have to reach out to the water district has to reach out to them for the help. Mr. Elmer also advised that the water was not to be used. Autumn Chisholm, the director, then advised that the water was okay to drink and shared a Q&A sheet on the manganese that is in our water. The problem is that when she sent the pages out, page 2 of her resource states that if your water is discolored, it is recommended that you use an alternative water source for drinking, which contradicts what she has previously stated. A few months ago, you had a concerned citizen come in and speak to the very issue of constant dirty water, and many of you have stated that the commission has no authority over the issue. According to some research that we've done, ChatGPT, 48 hours of prolonged water outages, especially in hot weather or affecting vulnerable populations like children or elderly, or those with medical conditions, are considered an emergencies, and counties typically activate emergency water supplies or shelters. After 72 hours, state-level assistance or FEMA assistance are triggered. Obviously, these things did not happen to assist the residents of Marion County Rural Water District 1. I reached out to our emergency management director on the second and third day of the issues when we were going through all the way through 9 and 10 here today, like we talked about. She did offer to help transport water if it was provided by Marion County Rural District 1. However, on day 7, I did some investigation into the EM job description and found that her scope includes safety of public water supplies and wastewater treatment facilities. And that's on the Marion County webpage. It is ESF3, Scope 1E, and to describe coordination efforts with public water supplies to ensure safe drinking water to communities. That is ESF8, Section 12C on her job description. As the emergency management director is the employee of the counties, the county commissioners, you guys do have an authority to help during an emergency such as that. Going forward, we'd like to access to the EMS questions and the answers provided by the chair of the Marion County Rural Water District 1 for some kind of plan of action to mitigate the number of occurrences and the length of them in the future. In the future, if this happens for a prolonged period as an emergency, 48 hours or more, we would really like to have thoughts and considerations for ample drinking water, portable showers, laundry facilities to maintain quality of life during these emergencies and long periods of unusable water. This emergency has cost customers time and money to purchase their own drinking water. They have lost hundreds of dollars worth of clothing, appliances, and filters. In addition to the monetary cost, this has caused immense stress, especially for those with young children, expecting parents, elderly, and those with financial hardships. Thank you guys for your time today and consideration into looking into this prolonged situation that we've had in the northern part of the county.
All right. Any other public comments?
Yeah, I'd like to go next. My name is Christina Kramer and I live at 1422 330th in Tampa. I'm here today because our water situation has reached a critical point and is no longer something we can quietly deal with on our own. You just heard from Nathan Bruner and I fully support what he said. This is not just a personal inconvenience, it's a public health and safety issue. Our families need clean water and emergency support until this is resolved. For years, residents in Tampa and Ramona have been dealing with water that is discolored and full of iron and manganese. Up until a couple months ago, this has been an occasional issue, but recently has been consistently bad. We have gone days without clean water from our taps, and while we've been told it's not a health risk at certain levels, when your water is brown and murky, no one feels safe drinking it. This isn't just a nuisance, it's summer in Kansas and we are dealing with dangerously high temperatures. My husband is a farmer working 12-hour days in this heat for harvest, and he can't fill up his water jug at home to take to the field. My kids are on summer break and they don't have access to clean drinking water in their own home, so I continuously buy bottled water. Every family in our community should have the basic human right to clean water for drinking, cooking, and bathing, and right now, we don't. This situation has gotten serious enough that Channel 12 News came out last week to interview residents. This isn't just one or two people complaining. The entire Rural Water District 1 community is affected. I'm asking this commission today, what support can you provide? Can you get help finding grants? Can we pressure Rural Water District 1 to communicate better and to work on long-term solutions? This problem isn't going to fix itself, and our families can't keep living like this. If you're planning on turning us away again without action, then I'd like to see one of you take this bottle of our tap water and drink the whole thing, because that's what you're expecting my family to do every single day. Thank you for your time and listening to the concerns of the people of your county.
Any others? Anybody online? Okay, close the public comment. Move on to the agenda approval. Anything we need to add to the agenda?
At least one executive training privilege.
Executive for attorney-client privilege.
Well, I think we need to have a little discussion about what we've heard today, whether that comes in out of agenda or commissioner comments. Add it, or we can just talk about it under commissioner comments, either way.
Something you want to add onto yours, Brad? There's something, some legal.
Potentially, yeah, I mean, it's fine if we want to put.
All right.
I don't know, Brad, if you're ready to give an update on anything you worked on with either the Article 27 regulations that you were asked to look at. Can we And the light issue again, are you ready to, have you got anything you can share with us today on that?
It's part of that executive session.
Okay. All right, that's all I need to know.
All good? All right, I'll move forward with the agenda as approved with the added items. Start off with administrative business.
We have the minutes of June 30.
Everybody had a chance to read the minutes? Any questions or concerns, corrections? Not, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Clark. Second by Kent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wasn't up on my computer again.
You know, abstain then, 4 with 1 abstention.
Well, I haven't seen them.
So what is the vote?
4 with 1 abstention.
Are you having technical issues, Mike? Do we need to get tech support for you, or what do we need to do?
I don't know, it didn't show up this week.
I'm sorry.
Your backup for today didn't show up. What?
Next, we got some change orders.
I need an abstention from 1.
You did?
Yeah.
There's one in there. That affects one of the commissioners.
So this one. Be adjusted to just be those 3. Separately.
Propose doing that.
Or do we just go ahead and sign all these individually? Abstain from the 1.
That's what I would do.
Okay.
So we get a single record. It's gonna be simple for you guys as well.
Probably needs to be noted.
I'm gonna have to do this one a little different. I'm gonna have to sign those 3. And Mike, I think you need to abstain from this last one.
About me?
Yes.
So sign these and then send them back. This is the one I'm not on that. Sure, I'm marking.
Just the one. The other, don't sign any of the others. sign that one. Sign all.
Yeah, we all signed them all. Mike just had to stay off of one.
When did you sign this one, master?
We're missing one here.
I signed that one.
Sorry. Just trying to keep Mike out of trouble.
Signed that one already?
Yeah, I signed
That's the one that's going around there, right?
So there's two of them that show have four.
Okay.
The JBM Enterprises.
Oh, okay.
I think they all have to sign that one.
And, Mark was saying it's two of them. Oh, it's JBM.
He said he owns that one too.
Learn something new every day.
J&B Plaza, cafe or pizza building.
Double checking.
Okay, then we have early checks in the amount of $23,747.72.
Questions with the warrants? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Kent,
Second.
second by Dave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
That's all I have.
Tina.
Okay. In your packet, I have, basically, there's just information in there for you, but I do have, the contract and the board order to proceed with the tax sale, that came from Keita Kelly.
Everybody had a chance to review the second email that came through earlier today, I believe.
Yep.
All right, I make a motion to approve a board order 2025-01, an order of the Board of County Commissioners of Marion County, Kansas, approved during the regular course of business on the 7th day of July, 2025, pursuant to KSA 75-28-01. Item A, directing Kelly Law Office LLP to initiate tax foreclosure procedures upon the property subject to delinquent property tax liens. It is so ordered the 7th day of July, 2025.
Any second?
Second by clerk. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
We don't know how many properties are on that.
I believe it's, no, I don't know. I'll have to find out. That there will be, a bunch that'll drop off. I do know that there's a minimum amount that we pay them, which is $15,000 total. And so the invoice they're submitting would be for the first half of that, because we pay the first half up front. So,
Also need a motion to enter into a contract agreement for real property tax foreclosures pursuant to KSA 79-2801 ET SEQ. Anyway, the 7th day of July 2025. The contract is 300 times the amount properties
yes.
and a minimum of $15,000.
And I had, Tina was gonna be here to answer questions, but she must have gotten held up. So I can find out the current number if you'd like.
How does that compare to the last contract?
The only thing I think that was added in is postage.
Second by Dave. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Would you like me to check in with Tina to see how many are currently on the list or?
It's,
If you can just get that to us next week, that's
Okay,
all. I mean,
sounds good.
I just curious ballpark what we were looking at.
It should be getting less as we go, as we are more consistent on an annual basis, so.
Have to have a little parentheses. This says what,
I can give you a cheat sheet.
that's right.
Okay. Really, I think that was all that I had at the moment.
All right. It's a little ahead of schedule.
I do have a packet in there for the road. Yep. So there is a little packet of information for that discussion. Let's see if I can get that to you.
Okay, ready.
Go. Everybody have a good Fourth?
Yeah.
Well, we're here today to kind of discuss a couple options for us. Unfortunately, we did not get the cost share awards for the Nighthawk project, which is between 190th and Highway 56, 3/4 mile stretch there. And we were not awarded the overlay on the 140th project going into Aldi from Sunflower. At this time, we just kind of like to have the direction from the board on what kind of ideas and thoughts and which direction you guys would like us to go to determine which one of these roads you feel is a priority, which ones you think that we could possibly hold off on and maybe do next year if the budget warrants it. So we have got Doug as well as Darren here to kind of help us kind of fill you guys in on what all's going on out there as far as these two particular roads, which is 140th and Nighthawk. So Darren was just out there on 140th and looked at the base of it and noticed there's some rock shelves that are creating some problems as far as soft spots in the road. And that would have to be something that need to be done prior to any kind of overlay put on it, or else we're just going to lose the base and the surface material. We've also put together, EBH has also put together a proposal for the Nighthawk project as far as doing a 12-inch overlay with crushed concrete with a 3-inch overlay on top of that. So, you guys got anything to add to that at this time?
Good summary.
Okay, the traffic count for the 140th, the 140th is actually 140 vehicles a day on an average. And then the Nighthawk at 190th, the traffic count was at 280. Is that right? Yeah, so almost double on the south side. We only have the one picture of, I can't put my glasses on there.
That's just our estimate.
Yeah, you got both of them. You got the Nighthawk and, yeah, there you go. The Nighthawk stretch, the 3/4 mile stretch was, what was it?
It was a cement treated base done at the same time as the rest of Nighthawk.
Yeah.
You got the same double chip that the rest of it did.
And
There's areas that when we use the cement treated base, if the base is gonna stay saturated, cement treated bases are not necessarily our best product to try to use. And there's obviously stretches through this 3/4 mile section that it just never cured out, never had a chance to dry itself out basically. So that's why we proposed on this stretch going in with more of a crushed concrete, crushed rock base. You know, similar to what we did over on Kansas, only this time just being a asphalt overlay instead of the concrete surface. But once we put that crushed concrete base in there, it's more drainable. It won't have the same problems that you're seeing now. And that's the same reason like on Olney Road on the 140th, if we don't take care of what the rock shelves are sending water out into our road base, a cement treated base down there is not gonna hold up long-term either in those isolated spots. So that's why we gotta do one of two things, either replace those sections with a crushed material base or try to intercept that water before it can get out into the road base and get it to change direction so it doesn't just get out in the road base and set. And that's why that road, you know, years ago, 330th was the same way on the west end up there, west of K15, where we'd see those blowouts happening. And that was because that moisture was setting in that base coming out of the rock shelves. So, or in this case of this part of Nighthawk is because there's nowhere for it to drain. It just kind of sets in that whole 3/4 mile stretch in the ditches, so. Because there really aren't, you can see right here, there's not a lot of ditch to some of that stretch, to some of that road.
usually it's full of water.
That's why this particular stretch would be best just to go with the crushed concrete, because then you put a geogrid down that crushed concrete and then the base doesn't, it can stay wetter at times during the year and it doesn't start to blow out like this. We're seeing the same problem on Remington. That's the exact reason we have the problems on Remington.
What would be the course of action for this piece of Nighthawk? Would you, the crushed concrete?
Crushed concrete.
Leave it sit?
No, you could go geogrid, you take out a little bit. It'd be helpful to elevate this part of this section of road some, so we wouldn't necessarily take out a full 12 inches. We'd take out the surface and maybe a little bit. Geogrid, 12 inches crushed concrete, 3 inches of surface, of asphalt surface. And then this road would hold up for quite a while. Especially at only 300 traffic count a day.
So we're looking at the top portion of that, which is what, 580?
Yeah, what we did here, we gave two estimates. The top estimate is if a contractor supplied the crushed concrete. The bottom numbers are as if we use county supplied crushed concrete. We know we still have some, we just don't know until we quantify. We're not exactly sure we have or want to use all that the county has left. So that's why we threw in two numbers when we turned in the grant application, so.
Sorry. Budget look like.
So I provided that in the email that I just sent you. So we do have this would be a project that would be paid out of the capital improvement fund. And I know that in 2024, you had put in $1 million potentially to utilize for base work on this road. And I believe the one other stretch of road, which might have been the only road, which obviously we didn't do that. So we do have capacity within the capital improvement fund, considering the transfers that we will be making this year to fund both of these. And then the projected balance is left there on your sheet.
So this cost doesn't address any of the drainage problems that have been
On
out there?
140th?
Yeah.
Well, really on either of them.
Well, I mean, no, I'm out here on Nighthawk.
Well, on Nighthawk, it doesn't address the bigger picture drainage, no. But by going to the crushed base, it doesn't leave us in as much of a problem. Plus, if we elevate that road a little bit, I'm only saying, 4 to 5 inches, it helps gets that base material up out of the muck too. But if you want to fix drainage problems, you're talking miles of drainage work to try to.
You'd have to go a mile to the south.
You have to go a mile to the south.
Those real solutions to that other than a lot of money.
You've got to get it clear down to the Cottonwood to get it to.
It's a mile to the south, and you'd have to do a French drain to keep it alive.
Maybe explain to him what the geograde does as far as.
Well, so when we use the geogrid, which we used over on Kansas, geogrid, what it does is when we lay a geogrid down on top of any type of surface, base surface, and we put the geogrid down and then we put the crushed on top, what happens a lot of times is if this layer down here is staying wet a lot and you don't use the geogrid, over time this bigger rock will get mashed down into that wet below. What that geogrid does is it makes it so that crushed rock can never push down in. Geogrid came about 40, 50 years ago is when they really started using it in the South to build roads and swamps. Because you could lay geogrid down, start dumping ballast rock in on top of it, and that ballast rock would never sink down into the swamp. It's the same theory here. So if we have areas, hillsides, low points, anything else that stay traditionally wetter in the base, that geogrid helps us keep that rock base stabilized and up. Right. So it doesn't have a chance to pump the fines up around it.
Have we used that on any of our roads?
Yes.
Have we used it on 330th?
Not on 330th because 330th were cement treated bases. You can't use it on a cement treated base. We used it on Kansas.
But crushed concrete, you can.
Yes, correct. Mm-hmm. Right. And on some of our lower volume roads, in the future, we wouldn't have to go 12 inches of base either. I mean, we could put the geogrid and go a lesser amount of base if we're a road in this 300 count. But with Nighthawk, then the problems it's had, this is kind of I went ahead and said, let's go 12-inch because of the ditch problems we have and some other stuff going on. It's more of a safe bet.
Is that product guaranteed?
Well, look at Kansas. I mean, we don't even have a cracked panel over there after 2 years. And if we had not put that geogrid down there, I guarantee over half the panels would be cracked by now. Just because things can move different. So, almost every KDOT and city street project that we've done in the last 10, 15 years has had geogrid under it. And if you go compare streets and KDOT highways in towns that we've done compared to the ones that didn't get the geogrid, that's what you're gonna see, is the pavement failing and the cracked panels.
So reapplying for this same project next year wouldn't gain us anything.
It could. Traditionally, with the cost share program, what we've seen in the state, typically we have to apply 4 to 5 times with the same project to get it awarded. Which is basically with a 6-month cycle of 2 to 3 years of reapplications. In fact, I think when we got the one up on 290th, I wanna say it was like 3 or 4 times we applied for it before we finally got it. So it kinda comes down to how.
No guarantee if we held off a year that we.
No, there's no guarantee,
I mean,
but your likelihood of getting something when you reapply for it multiple times goes up. Even if you really don't change a whole lot in your application.
So, take it back to 140th. What needs to be done there? I mean, you tear up some spots.
If you want to attack the water coming in off the rock ledges, I went and talked to Charlie with Ditch Diggers. And we could bring in his big rock trencher. We could trench out in the ditches, down in a ditch flow line. Trench down 4, 5, 6 feet with that thing and try to break up that rock ledge. So that when water's following the rock ledge out of the ground, instead of continuing out into the road base, it has a point to go. So we're breaking up the rock ledge. That's one of the options. He didn't get a chance to drive it and look spot by spot by spot, but $60,000, maybe $70,000 worth of rock trenching in ditches could help us out tremendously. When I drove it again this morning, I tried to get a better count on distance. We could be rock trenching a quarter mile or more in chunks throughout that thing to try to find where our ledges are at to try to break it.
Both ditches.
Sometimes it's both, sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other. You kind of have to look at the lay of the land and see which way you're getting flow from. There's some spots where you're getting it from both. And then there's some that's very obvious it's one or the other.
Well, past our house, they put that new phone line in, and then they put the fiber optic line in, so now we have a rock trench on both shoulders of the county road, but if it's out.
If the utility would come in and do that, it'd help us all out a bunch, that's for darn sure.
That just crushed that road and took 2 or 3 years for that to ever stabilize back after
It
they.
depends on where they put the trench. I'm talking about going down in the
That's
flow
what I'm
line.
saying, hopefully down in the ditch, we won't have that.
That's where I would propose it, so, and every place I looked again this morning, the ditches are wide enough that he could run his trencher down through there. I was afraid we were gonna have some too steep ones or something, but I didn't see anything like that.
So
That would be my idea for a prep for 140th. My end recommendation would still be to do something like that and then have it set a year.
that's what will be my
To see, to make sure we got all the spots and then what we did.
to make sure we've improved that before we, or see how that settles out would be a good option.
I mean, I'm not saying that just to push a surfacing project out. I'm just saying that I'd rather do that because let's just say we see we're not seeing any problems. It might change our recommendation, up here on this estimate for 140th. We say, hey, well, let's go back in and do a full 12-inch cement treated base the whole way. If we see we've solved our problem, knowing what we've already done out there in past years, maybe we don't need to do a full cement treated base the whole way at that point. Maybe we can do something different to cheapen this one up.
And keep this one on the reimbursement.
and reapply for this one.
That was be my next question, can we reapply, do this?
That's what I would recommend at this point, is maybe there's a way to do some stuff now to get us to a next point, to reapply, and then if we find out that we get a next one, but we don't need to do the full base, the full distance, then that just saves us money in the cost share probably.
What's a good engineered estimate for that?
Oh.
Pre-work,
Well, like I said, right now, I'd say if we just budgeted
Less
it
than
like
100.
60 to, yeah, under 100, 60 to 70. Charlie said he could come take a look, sometime he'll get with us and we'll grab Steve and Doug and we'll all go out there and take a closer look, but he, obviously, if he doesn't have to mobilize and move his equipment, it's gonna be cheaper, so, per foot. So if we come in and do a quarter mile, even though it's over a 3 mile stretch, it's gonna be cheaper than saying, oh, hey, we want 200 done this time. Oh, hey, next month we want another 100, so.
Is that the only company that does that?
He's the only one around here that has that big of a rock trencher. It's a
I just
monster.
wondered if that's something that was a bid process thing.
It's a pretty vicious,
It's a monster.
you could go buy one and take this project on and still probably be about $10,000 upside down.
Oh, if you bought your own, if you even rented a rock trencher, you couldn't do it for this.
So we had to use it to get my water line
It's a little bit special.
over east,
It's,
back to the feed log.
the trencher itself's not quite as big as a combine, but it's pretty good size. It's the size of a 4-wheel drive tractor. And if he puts the teeth on it, he can go up to 18 inches wide and like 8-9 feet deep. So he can cut a heck of a tree. Now, we wouldn't need to go that wide or that deep, but that's its capabilities.
We went 12 inches just to make sure we could get that water line in.
So I guess I would go ahead and make a motion to move forward with the Nighthawk project. Keep that one separate.
Higher traffic count.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Clark? All those in favor?
I know you've already done it, but we're talking about the top one with the 12-inch concrete base.
Yes.
Now, are we talking about county supplied crushed concrete, or are we talking about contract crushed concrete?
As long as we have.
As long as we have it.
Well, okay, let's discuss that a little bit. That crushed concrete that's up north now, it's on 340th and Highway 77. Yes, it seems like we've got quite a bit there, but we got several road rebuild projects, gravel rebuild projects that we're planning on utilizing that material. So I don't know if I don't like us to see that, we short ourselves up north, because that's gonna be our base material for our gravel rebuilds up north. 360th, which is gonna be 7-8 miles, and then we're also talking about limestone. That's gonna be another 3 miles, so we're looking at another 10 more miles up there that we're gonna be rebuilding and planning on using that crushed concrete up there.
What I would recommend is we bid it both ways. We can put an alternate in there to bid it both ways, and that way you can come back in at the end and say, oh, the contractor supplying it's gonna be way higher than using our own.
Okay.
And getting your own from somewhere else at some other point, or then we'll have a number for the contractor supplying it, and you can make the decision at that point which way you wanna go
Do
exactly.
we know where their sum is as far as what our estimated mileage to haul it would be?
Other crushed concrete? Not right now, that'd be up to a contractor to determine. There's not a lot of other crushed concrete around that people are willing to give up right now. I mean, contractor'd have to go find it for their bid. And it doesn't have to be crushed concrete, sometimes bringing in a crushed material, we don't let the softer limestones be used, but even the Florence quarry has some material that will allow in a base. So it might not be crushed concrete, it might be the AB material from Florence, but it has to be the harder stuff from Florence, so it can't be their soft stuff. So.
I just wanna make sure that was noted in the proposal or I think at this point, we should be all right, splitting it both ways on both roads, or all 3 roads. The gravel rebuilds as well as the Nighthawk, because Nighthawk's only 3/4 of a mile. But we should have enough trail, but I just wanted to make sure that we are all on the same page as far as how we're going about bidding it.
Yeah, our
Makes sense?
budgetary number is the higher number.
Okay.
Hopefully you don't need it.
So,
And then, next motion is to move forward with getting bids on doing the rock trenching and water mitigation issues on 140th.
Second.
Second by Kent. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
While we got you here, a couple other questions. We had a third paving project up by Tampa. What's the status of that one?
the third grant application,
Yeah.
that's our economic, we have not heard anything back on response on that.
Still waiting on that one.
Yeah, they don't run on the same cycles with KDOT. Each different grant program has some different dates and release dates on their funds, and they have not released the economics yet.
Any idea when that release date is, or your guess is as good as
The
mine?
C-clips are the cost shares that just came out, that they were supposed to be out like 6 weeks ago. So the fact that they just hit, a week ago or a week and a half ago, kind of gives you an indication.
Then you were rebuilding 90th from Chisholm to
Indigo.
Indigo. I guess you're shut down right now, and that just due to harvest, trying to stay out of the way of the.
Harvest and the weather.
What's your, I guess, how much have you got done on that right now? Cause I drove it yesterday.
We've got a half a mile of ditch work to get rid of the false shoulder, and we're planning on using that to help develop a crown on that that'd be just right off the Indigo, from Indigo to Holly. Yeah, Indigo to Holly, that mile stretch there, we've just got a half a mile of that kind of prep work to do, and then a little bit of ditch work, the west half of that mile. And then we're ready to put our base rock on that and finish up with our surface rock, our gray rock.
Have you got the surface rock on and everything?
Yes, we finally got it all delivered. We got enough material now at the south shop to go ahead and get that surface rock completed on that, on 90th there.
But you don't have it on there yet?
No.
Okay.
We gotta put our base rock in it first. And then we gotta work it into the ground, our base rock, work it into the material we have there. And then after we get it groomed up and profiled and packed in good, then we'll come in with our surface rock.
But I guess what I'm saying, that's on that last mile, but from Holly to Chisholm, you still got surface rock to put on that?
Maybe in spots, but that's all been rocked with surface rock.
Because it doesn't. I guess I was expecting the harder gray rock, and it's there's a lot of the stretches on there where you can see very little gray and a lot of white.
Well, we're putting 300 tons a mile. I mean, it's in some areas where it's wet and been holding water, that gray rock's getting a lot farther than the ones where we got a good hard base. So, yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, we can always go back and put some more on if we need to, but.
I just it didn't look like I expected it to look. I guess what I'm saying, there's a couple of stretches where you've got gray rock windrowed on the side waiting to pull it back across, which I understand, and then there's other sections where you gotta look hard to see gray.
Okay.
Let's bring that up. I'm gonna go drive it. Alright. Anything else?
At this point.
Alright, thanks, Steve.
You bet.
What's the excitement? The budget looks.
Right, so do you wanna do that before the county councilor or after?
What's the commission feel like? You wanna put the budget session to the end, or?
Let's do that at the end.
Brad, you're up.
Probably, executive session on potential litigation.
Okay.
15 or 20 minutes at least.
Okay.
It's usually what it takes.
Move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss potential litigation pursuant to KSA 75-4319B. Item number 2, consultation with our attorney-client privilege. With the board, Tina, Brad, till 1:40. Open session room, resume back in commission chambers following the closed session.
Second.
Got a second, Kent? All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0. All right, out of executive session, no decisions made. Everything else open or?
On the open, on the request for the planning and zoning review, I've been through that once, and I've got that, pretty much all of my notes made on that. I haven't gone over those with Sharon yet, but I did kind of relate it to the existing comp plan as well. I've got a little additional research to do on that, but I am past the original review of everything. So I want to let you know that that was progressing, and I'll probably sit down with Sharon and go over that to be sure there isn't anything that she has that I haven't looked at, covered, tried to address, so that it results in kind of an end-up memorandum on that whole thing that is comprehensive in nature. So that's where we are on that. Let's see, what else was I have that would be open. That one isn't far enough along yet. That's the only other one that I would have at the moment.
Anything else on this side? All right, let's go over here. Commission comments, I'm sure we need to have a little discussion about rural water district number 1, so.
I'll start it. I live on rural water district one, and I can emphasize, because I've dealt with some of the same things, not with the duration, but I've been in close contact with emergency manager and legal counsel. That rural water district number 1 is a for-profit company. So that limits us being able to declare a disaster declaration. It still falls in the lap of the board. I mean, what we can do, and I'll deflect to Brad on that.
Clarify their board.
Right, their board. Their board is where the buck stops. But I'll let Brad clarify what, we could possibly do to try to help them along. I mean, we don't have grant writers. They're talking about grant writers and things like that. There's grant writers out there. You have to contract with them.
Rural Water District is basically a statutorily created entity that's been around for a period of time, done in order to allow a group of citizens in a particular area to develop a water source that's more reliable than just the wells they have on the place. When this one was done, I was still, grade school. Dad was one of the original parties on that board. And that stretches a long, long distance, just by way of perspective. But the issues that are currently presented certainly are something that are reasons for concern, it would appear. We can go ahead and make inquiry, we can go ahead and urge certain things, we can even make reports if we so choose. a declaration or disaster declaration is probably not one of them that is first on the list of things that are obvious and easy to do. And I don't mean easy in terms of that, okay, this don't work in this. Just not sustainable or have the efficacy that certain other things do. The county this board still is responsible for its constituents' health, safety, welfare. And this is classic in terms of one of the things that needs to be addressed. So they have a reason to be concerned. They can, if they so choose, direct, and I can prepare it, a letter to that particular board indicating the concerns that are being raised and that the constituents have, and their constituents overlap with ours. You're a subset of the entire county, and so this board has a reason to be involved to that degree. Ultimately, the entity that's going to be able to mandate certain things, it's one of two, and I think that it's accurate in terms of what's been identified. KDHE is primary in terms of the health element of this, but we also have Department of Ag, Division of Water Resources that also can get involved in that to some degree. Both of those can end up, depending upon the answers that we're given, being notified or at least inquiries made of them to get this addressed in some fashion. But it will still fall, as Commissioner Becker said, to that board because they are independent of us. That doesn't mean that you don't have recourse as an end user. You do. But it becomes a question of, well, okay, how do we aggregate our interest as everyone who's a customer and get something done with this? Several obvious things that can be done, which is to go to their board meeting, ask for a special meeting, go in and show them what you're pulling out of a tap, run for the board. Get some people on there that, are experiencing this and going, this is enough, we've got to deal with it. And I'm not saying this to be critical of who's on there. It's a problem that's been around for a while. I'm aware of it, with property out there as well, and it does need to be addressed. And it's a complex issue in a number of ways in terms of expense and the various sources of what can be causing this. At the last time that anyone ever discussed it where I was within earshot, the original source of the water isn't the problem. It's what's happening transporting it.
It's the system.
Yeah.
I don't think the wells are great. I think the aquifer has dropped, and so the iron and manganese levels are gonna be raised, like they're naturally occurring elements, but where we're pulling the water from is lower than it was 20 years
I
ago.
believe that's true.
So I think it's becoming a source problem instead of a transportation problem. It's both, but it's becoming both.
Yeah,
Been discolored water in that system for well over 20 years.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I used to go visit my grandparents in Ramona when I was little, and it was not like that.
No.
and years ago, we didn't have the issue in terms of the demand even that was pretty significant with all the dairies that used to be out there. We all did, pulled a lot of water. But the capacity was there. Heck, run it all the way from Roxbury. Anyway, but that's kind of a convoluted answer, but I do believe that, and as a first step, this board can direct that a letter be sent to their board, and also try to get some information from them, and then if it requires additional reports to the state, as the primary entity that governs the county, that can be done. But our ability to go in and say, you will do the following things is very limited.
We have contacted KDHE. I'm working closely with someone there.
And that's,
I'd obviously have called them.
that'd be the first place I would have told you to go, so I think that's on the right track.
With any success at this point?
She says we document. We will document, and I was not very nice to her. I said, that's useless to me. I said, I can document, I got jars of it in my house. I said, what happens with the documentation is what I wanna know, what happens, like what gets done. They don't help us apply for grants. They're not gonna get us the grant writer. I really think Kansas Rural Water Association is gonna be more helpful than KDHE is. And
For that purpose, I agree.
I'm obviously in talks with them as well. It's just, I think right now, when you're having 7 days of this, is where we're asking the commissioners to step in as an emergency. Like, I have an 89-year-old cousin who lives in Ramona, And I don't want her carrying cases of water into her house. She can't. That's the problem. And they did provide 10 cases of water to the post office. She didn't even know about it. 10 cases of water. That's 1 bottle of water per person. To me, it was an insult. So that's what we're asking for is, you know, drinking water. It's 95 degrees outside.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna make a motion to direct staff to send a letter to the Rural Water Department. Number 1, expressing concerns of county residents about water quality and requesting a response. Second by Kent. All those in favor? Aye.
Do you want that prepared for just staff signature, or do you want that to come back to you for your chair's signature, or collectively all 5 of you?
I think it'd be best if it came from the 5 of us.
Okay.
When you said that we would have recourse because they are, you know, a public company, are you mean like we signed a contract saying that they have to supply clean water and that, you know, we would have to get our own lawyer if we wanted to be reimbursed for anything? What did you mean by recourse by that?
There are, how do I explain this one readily? There are multiple ways that you would have that recourse. One of them is what you've just indicated. Your customers, and we get into a number of different areas of law very quickly, but like in anything else, if you pay for a service and you don't get that service, you have a breach. And that's one of the simple ones, but there's a number of different legal theories that you can utilize in a case like that to proceed for specific performance, for damages. And I don't, the individual legal advice I'm trying to stay away from here, but I'm trying to give you
I understand. I kind of thought that too. I don't ever remember signing a contract with them though, when I signed up for the water. So that's why I'm like, I mean, I went through my emails, I'm looking through stuff. And so I was trying to find something, if maybe you know, like, if that's held somewhere, like she has it in her office and it's just kind of a blanket, like once I've moved into that house, I've signed a contract by moving into that house. You know what I'm saying? Cause I don't
It's a
remember.
little different
If
than
you, if you own the property you're in, you would have a water right.
Okay,
That is, a water right is it's actually
Enforceable interest.
marketable.
Yeah.
Water.
Additionally, it's a form of utility. This thing is a hybrid. And so if you move into a city and you go in and say, hi, I live at such and such a street address, and I need water service. Well, generally, there's a mandate to provide that within that jurisdictional limit. The contract that you sign there isn't really what you would consider in most cases a traditional contract either, but it is a form of enforceable right that you possess. And no different, and on the other side of that, in terms of reciprocity of that, if you don't pay the bill.
yeah, she can shut it off.
Yep. And she has the ability to chase you that entity has the ability to chase you for the delinquency.
I tell you what, a lot of people don't wanna pay their bill. It was pretty insulting when I got my bill last week. And it's automatically coming out.
Yep.
Wanted to write an email and say, I'm paying this under protest. But I mean, what good is that gonna do?
You're looking for something a little more than that at this point.
Yeah, instead of keeping a receipt for every case of water I buy, I've been told to do that. I'm like, I mean, I guess I can. That's not gonna account for the water heater I'm gonna have to put in 2 years, and the washing machine I'm gonna have to buy 2 years, and my daughter's dress, my son's baseball uniform. She's not gonna pay for that.
Well, let's see where this letter goes.
Okay.
Is that something that would be available
Yeah.
next week?
We need to move that part of it along.
Very good. Any other commission comments?
Pray for the ones in Texas on that flood.
That's awful.
It's beyond comprehensive.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, did you wanna do your budget work
Oh, wait,
session?
budget work session. That's right. I withdraw my motion.
Sounds good.
Oh, I gotta start thinking about Texas next. Ugh.
Okay.
Is there an extra one if I would just?
Yeah, actually, let me. Yes, there is one for you.
There's one more.
Do I have enough copies for everyone? You should have three items. Okay, so I wasn't really sure where you all wanted to start, so I decided just to kind of start where we usually start with Scott Lloyd. So the first page to look at would be this one that has the red numbers on it, single sheet. Does everybody have that? Okay, so basically what this form is, it just kind of shows you the mill levy rates from the prior year and that funded the current year budget and the current year taxes. And then at the bottom, it shows the valuation. So in 2024, we had a valuation of 174,151,089 toward the bottom on the left side. Does everyone see that? And the mill levy rate for 2024 was 75.878. Is everybody with me on that?
Yep.
Jonah's with me. Does everybody else see it? Okay, thank you. And then the 2025, we see that our valuation was 181,247,062. And you'll see that we kept the tax revenue the same. We were revenue neutral. You can see that the total taxes for the 2025 budget were 13,215,104, which resulted in a mill levy decrease. Does everybody see that? Because we basically utilized the same dollars of taxes as the prior year, okay? So then moving on to the current year, the process that we're in right now to budget for next year, our valuation from the county clerk is 189,202,193. So that is an increase of 7,955,131. Does everybody see that we did have that value increase? If the board decides to keep the to stay revenue neutral again, levying the 13,215,104, that would result in a mill levy decrease of 3.066 mils approximately. So does everybody see that? So that is what a revenue neutral effect would be. So the actual, so if you look at the other similar page that I gave you, that does not have red on it. Does everybody have that second sheet? So the difference here, and basically I was just trying to show you an illustration here. So if the county were to leave the mill levy the same, the rate, and basically capitalize on that value increase, that would result in about $579,000 of additional taxes if you did not make a change, like you keep your mill levy rate the same. So those are just two really broad examples of the mill levy, just an illustration so that you understand the relationship between those things. So then if we go to the packet that I gave you, what I did here is just a starting point, was I put in the, started working up the budget inputs to come up with a tax levy of this, which would be revenue neutral, 13,215,104. And then I've gone through and everything in here, I went ahead and put the inputs in from the departments with the exception of personnel. None of the personnel numbers are updated. So that's usually the way Scott has always started. He will have you review everything with the exception of personnel and then add the personnel numbers in as a separate item. So some of these things I will still need to check, and I have not done any current year evaluation about where we are with things, but if I just go in and I start the budget inputs with keeping this year as it's budgeted and then putting in the inputs that the departments presented for next year, and then getting every fund back to the same dollar amount that they had last year, as far as that's what's been done here. So the things to keep in mind would be, so like, for example, on page 3 of this packet, the hand numbered page 3. Yep.
Circle threes?
Yeah, it's without the circle.
Okay.
But this is your general fund, for example. So just by starting the inputs here and keeping the general fund at revenue neutral based on the inputs and the things that we have so far, if you look at your cash reserve for 2026, which is the far right column toward the bottom, and there is a negative number of 164,880. Does everybody see that? Okay. So obviously this is not anywhere close to a final version, but that is, the next pages that follow that are all detail of the general fund itself. There's 4 pages of general fund detail. If you go to page 8, that's our bond and interest fund. That's where we're making our road bond payment on page 8. That fund you'll see based on the same taxation that we had last year. Obviously, we have enough to make our bond payment, and then we have a slight reserve there. Then we go to road and bridge, or the next couple pages here. So if you look on page 10, on that cash reserve, if we keep things the same and if we spend everything in our current budget, which we typically wouldn't, we wouldn't spend everything that we have budgeted for current year. You're looking at the cash reserve there based on what has already been discussed as 1.206491 as a negative.
Reduction.
Right. The next 2 pages, the next page is detail for the road and bridge department. Again, there are some numbers that obviously still have to be pinned down. And then it keeps going forward. So like we have the Department of Aging, election, all the other levied funds are what you have here. I've not given you yet all of the other funds that are not funded by tax levies. So and I really just kind of wanted to get a direction from the board on what you're thinking, how you want the budget to look, what you want to try to accomplish, and then I can get to work as far as getting things more in line with that. And I also have not calculated employee benefits, because since we haven't done payroll yet, we don't typically calculate employee benefits until payroll is done, so we know the impact of that fund. And I wanna let you have time to look at this too, but it's just kind of a starting point for a conversation.
Well, I would obviously like to see us move down the path of the revenue neutral 3.066 reduction in the mill levy rate from last year. Maintaining that current tax levy. Definitely don't wanna see any increase in taxes for citizens of Marion County.
I agree with you, but you know, we've lived on our valuation increases now for a number of years. But we've seen our general fund get cut year after year after year. And that's the most important fund we've got, because we can basically fund anything in this county out of the general fund. And if you run that general fund too low, you're gonna have issues that could cause us a lot of grief. We haven't, most of the departments, I'll say, I'm not judging any of the department heads. I think they try to be as conservative as they can when they put together a budget, but there's also things in there that they want, do they need. The last several years, we've not gone back. We've never had ask for a across the board budget reduction from any department. We've lived on that valuation increase.
And now you've got seniors that can't pay their taxes, and you've got people that are retired that having to go back and get part-time jobs to pay their taxes.
I'm not against any kind of tax increase, don't get me wrong. I'm just telling you from this side.
Yeah, and I agree with you. At some point, we've gotta get back to what does the county have to do? Are there things that we're doing because we think it's a nice thing to do?
Yeah.
And
But
can we?
there was one year that we didn't do our budgeted transfers because we felt like we were a little bit weak in the general fund area. We could say next year we're not even gonna do a budgeted transfer.
Yeah.
That's not the best way to do things, but that's a Band-Aid.
So that essentially, the reason we do those transfers for anybody who's new is to fund projects, like road projects, like to fund our capital improvement fund, and equipment. So if you don't purchase those things or put them off, that's definitely an option to save money, but then down the road, you've gotta catch up.
You're just kicking the can. So, but what's the best way to do it?
Right.
You can ask every department to cut a certain percentage out of their budget request.
There's certain departments that are gonna have to make cuts regardless. Some of them are grant funded primarily. The grants aren't gonna come,
The grants aren't gonna come,
and they're going to dry up, so.
yeah.
My concern is with all of our road and bridge projects, or what it costs to run any piece of equipment or work on a road. How we can not
Cut back.
cut back there.
But
However that, and then whether you can single one out or not, I have no clue.
I mean, I agree with the road and bridge, I don't wanna,
Which is the most,
Cut that.
one of the bigger budgets anyhow.
but they, as far as I can tell, they're taking on and they're doing a lot of improvements and doing a lot, but I don't know how many more they can do in a year, right? So I don't know how much more funding they would need. I mean, we maybe for material, but as far as personnel and getting the amount of
Material
work,
is what I'm,
getting the amount of work done that they are getting done a year, I don't know that they can take on any more. So we could throw more money at it, but it's not that it would get done.
And that's where we need to look at these departments, we need to look at road and bridge, we need to make them more efficient. You know, there may be, I've talked to people, I've thrown out the idea that, you know, let's get the townships involved in deciding what roads they want fixed.
All the priorities.
Prioritize things, and we may not fix every road in Marion. We're not gonna fix every road in Marion County. It's never gonna happen. But we need to get the public involved and let them decide what their priorities are, and if we have to scale back, let them decide what that scale back is. And just like you with the water district, that the community up there has got to get involved with the water board. That's why I'm here.
Run for a seat.
Run for a seat.
Oh, trust me, I've been told that by like 1,000 people. Like, cause as if I don't have enough to do,
Right.
I'll just add that to my list.
Well,
I-
but there's other people in the community
yeah.
that do need to
Oh, and
step up.
oh, trust me, I'm upset with them too. I've
So-
voiced my concerns with them. They've heard from me.
But I guess my thing is, we can't be everything to everybody. And at some point, you know, you got to,
And it makes it complicated too when you don't have township maintenance. And some of the townships don't even have an officer.
Right.
Leadership, yeah.
Bring it. I mean, I understand it's all touching up. Go back to budget. So I'm hearing revenue neutral, direction you would like to go.
Leave it as the same. 69.
You're looking at revenue neutral or keeping the mill levy the same?
Well, I mean, you have other options aside from that too. As far as revenue neutral, it's doable.
We need to
I
make
think,
sure
but it's-
direction.
Right, I just need to know what you want to do. The concern, obviously, is that if you do revenue neutral again, for the second year, you may end up depleting quite a few of the cash reserves that you would need to be able to operate, and should something happen, and or you would have to put off projects or equipment purchases.
If you go revenue neutral, the two options that I see are not doing the budgeted transfers, or number two, cutting the budget across the board.
I'm in favor of the revenue neutral, just because of the climate that we're in right now. We need to wait for, if it's in the best interest to build and do things and projects, everybody else is having to make cuts right now. And to ask them to keep making cuts and keep paying more tax, I don't think is right.
We've got
things-
a high degree of fixed income people in this county. For raising their tax.
I know people want more, but everything's gotta chill out for a second.
Got fixed the jail. Big project next year. Air conditioning.
Those are huge expenses.
We haven't bought any new road graders for a couple of years. You need to build up the reserve. So we have cash.
I don't know, I'm looking around and we can keep things flat for people in the county. That's, but we have no control over what happens in the city.
Yeah,
Just remember one thing though, that when the cash reserves are depleted, You can't walk down to the bank and get a line of credit.
Well, and the other thing too to consider that Scott always would remind us of, and so take this however you wanna take it, it's just if you do lower a mill levy and then you lower a mill levy and you lower a mill levy, you know, that can be great in the, but if it comes to the point where then you need to increase, a lot of times your increase is more than it would be if you were kind of trying to stay more steady. So it could, that's basically what,
You don't wanna run bottom and then have to fix it.
right, cause then that's a much more difficult hill to climb.
Costs you twice as much.
Sam Brown back.
Let's not go there. I pleaded with our House reps and Senate to get rid of the property tax cap because of this reason. Because when I was on the city, I would be too afraid to lower because you couldn't bounce it back because they had the cap on it. Well, now that they removed the cap, I feel like I should honor what I stood for then and go ahead and allow it to reduce, because knowing that the cap is gone, we can bounce it back up if a crisis arises. And that was always like the pigeonhole was, you never knew what was gonna happen, so you always you never lowered the mill. But once the state got rid of that, then we got to recognize that they got rid of that so that we could lower the mill, so that we can raise it back up if it's necessary, because it took away that fear.
And there's also an option to lower it, but not go all the way down to revenue neutral. If you wanna lower it some and then
Can you get us a number or splitting that difference maybe?
I can do whatever the board wants, but I don't, it's not productive for me to do a lot of really deep level work on this until you all have kind of given me a direction of where you wanna be, because it
Just be
doesn't,
calculating these numbers or cutting it in half, I guess, would that be correct?
Right. and you don't have to say today where you want the mill levy to be, but a general direction would be good. Next week is the deadline. I mean, you will have to determine whether you're going to remain revenue neutral by July 20th, and so you've only got one more meeting, which is next week, to decide. Unless you do a special meeting, so.
What's revenue neutral?
Revenue neutral is basically taking in the same amount of money that they took in last year.
So that would be that very first one I gave you that has the red on it.
That's the red.
Red.
It doesn't mean that,
$59.
you're not gonna end up paying a little more tax or a little less tax. It depends on what the state calculations do on the percentages. But the county takes in the same amount of money. As I learned last time when I thought we did so good on revenue neutral. Clark had to tell me, no. Lesson learned, thanks Clark.
I think
Don't make them bold statements.
Cause I can tell you my taxes are gonna go up, even if we stay,
My taxes are going up.
because my valuation,
Valuation's up.
Well, mine are going away unless the deal falls through. I sold the place. But I get to live there for free.
All right. So, I mean, my direction is always to go revenue neutral, but
I'm revenue neutral, but I also think we need to look at
mill levy flat.
right, but I think we also need to be looking at some of these budgets and see if they need to be cut a little bit.
We need. I know where Clark's at. He didn't have to reply. Where you at, Mike?
I just concerned that we have enough money to keep our roads up, at least, or not deteriorate any further. And I think that'll take more money for next year. On just road and bridge budgets. Now, whether the total budget changes like that much, we could spend $1 million out there easily, I think.
Where you at, Dave?
keep the mill levy flat. make a recommendation.
Can you work in that direction on both of those, where you already have? And then we can just like, we can split the difference, rather than you having to come up with 1 mil, 2 mil, 3 mil, we can just, okay, this is
So if
that
you're-
mil, this is this mil. Like, no.
So what I think that you're saying is that to try to get to revenue neutral without completely depleting the reserves, and that if there is, you know, some, like, prepare it as close to showing revenue neutral as we can and let you guys see what the impacts of that would be. And then if you all wanna make a change to increase it, then you can do that?
Yeah.
Is that,
That's what I'd like to see, I think.
With that.
Being my first time.
it would be pretty easy to show the difference of what additional revenues could potentially come in and plug in that extra 500 and some thousand somewhere, Dave, to keep it as a flat mill levy, if that makes sense. So we could
so-
start without it and then show where we might need to adjust.
Yeah.
And as far as the asking the departments, I mean, you heard their budget presentations. Was there anything that you felt, you know, or that, I guess what I would say is if there's anything that you felt was not reasonable within their request, or that you had concerns about, that, you know, we need to probably talk about that, because I think that for the majority of it, everybody came in with a a very reasonable budget and trying to just do, you know, a base ask without, you didn't have a lot of changes.
I heard,
We're trying to maintain.
I remember one topic that came up was the rent and the health department. No more rent, and then why was it still factored in? I do remember that piece. That was the only thing I can distinctly remember.
You mean on the contractual?
Yeah.
Right, because what went up and what went down, so more specifics.
Yeah, but their utilities offset that.
Right.
And
So I didn't see any issue.
other item would be
Other than
correcting
whether
road,
it's on the right line item or however you would describe it.
somehow double their hard rock budget.
Right,
Without-
which,
without affecting their budget, which is a tightrope.
We can't trade tons for tons.
that to me is not a real major issue on the, just changing the line items on those for the Hard Rock versus the other.
You're gonna go line by line on the budget.
I do that every single year, I've done it forever, and I will be doing it this year, so,
That's one I do know there's a pretty strong support for, is getting more hard rock incorporated.
okay. Were there any other things that you can think of right now that you had questions about, or feel free to think about it and let me know, but, the sooner the better.
I think we shoot for revenue neutral and you tell us why that doesn't work. And then we'll have to,
If there are areas where we need to make some hard choices, then you can work on that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Be prepared to make that decision next week is what you're suggesting.
yes. That gives, now I have a direction, thank you. And I'm happy to meet with any of you, if you have individual questions or, concerns or ideas, anything like that, so just let me know.
I really think until people get some more money back in their savings account again, we've gotta shoot for that revenue neutral. That's it.
Okay, so my direction is I'm going to prepare a revenue neutral budget and then let you all know where the pitfalls might be.
The one other thing you can do for me.
Yep.
We've got evaluation of, went up, $8 million. How much of that $8 million was taxed in 2025 for 2024, and how much of it is new property that was added to the county? What,
Is there a percentage?
is there, because
Yep, I can get that for you.
if, you know, if we had a $2 million increase in the base, well, I'm okay with increasing, you know, not, because that's new tax revenue.
It would help justify.
It would help justify
To fix the pitfalls.
an increase in the mill levy to account for that. This doesn't tell me, you know,
Right. Where it is.
where it is.
Ashley and I can get that together for you. The other thing to keep in mind is personal property. You know, we will be having changes on that, so our revenue for personal property is going to be less than in the past. So that's another little thing to just have in mind and you know, make sure that you're aware of that we don't really know what our revenue is gonna be there, and it's gonna
Fall out of that maybe.
what the fallout of that change is gonna be. So,
Well, I mean, watercraft tax is $2,700. If I'm reading this right, that's going away, so that's $2,700. Well, that's,
right, well,
I mean, I don't see that personal property tax.
personal property valuation for the county is $4,998,106.
But what's going away is,
Right, so I don't know, like, that's just what I'm saying, I don't know all of the individual exact items that are
I
gonna
know
be
it was the
affected.
smaller trailers, the watercraft tax.
Most of the UTVs are certificates and they're not taxed anyway, they're farm use.
Yeah.
They should be taxed.
I think even if they are taxed, it's going away.
So we can get you a little bit more information on
Yeah.
More of a specific on that item.
That is good. That's good. That's a very good thought. I've never.
I know that sometimes in the past, these bigger valuation shifts have been due to utilities, public utilities, increasing. So, but we can kind of do an evaluation of what the changes were.
Get that Keystone Excel going again. It comes right through here. That'll up our volume. That'll help all of the pitfalls without taxing our residents.
Is there anything else that you wanted to provide guidance on in this topic, or?
I think that's quite a bit for you to have them ready for us in a week.
Okay,
Sounds like a plan.
okay, very good.
Anything else? Very good. Now I'll take a motion to.
Well, one last thing.
Oh, there we go.
Then I'm thinking about it. The fireworks, it's the first time I've ever been out to lake. And I got debris from the locals shooting them off 50 feet from my pickup. Is that policed any way, shape or form of the public, not the display? Right there in front of the lake hall, 10 feet from hundreds of people. You know, it's one thing to go shoot them at your house, shoot them off somewhere, but the amount of just private fireworks that were discharged amongst several hundred people, 10 to 50 feet from you, didn't set with me very well.
So the board has the authority to decide whether or not people can light fireworks there.
I was out there and I don't know what it was like because I left before the fireworks were over, but they were just shooting fireworks off of the street like crazy. I mean, just kids in the street. You had to stop, wait, let them shoot them. To me, that's not right. There ought to be maybe a designated area out there or a south side or something. Okay, take your kid over there. But you know, it could have been dangerous because if somebody hadn't been watching them, you know, and they'd light something up, run off the street, and you're driving, you probably think your car blew up.
Well,
So
I just thought it was a safety concern, maybe.
Yeah.
We should.
a designated area is probably not a bad idea. tried my whole life not to become the old crotchety person. No, I'm not. I'm sitting on the other side of the fence here trying to make sure that we don't ruin this for some people. But they did a very good job cleaning up too.
And the
I heard nothing but good.
crowd that was there behaved very well, I think, overall, but.
I think it's becoming the numbers out there, you know.
I was surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it's family reunion day.
Well, the cruise thing or whatever, the number of participants.
Yeah, that's so.
was pretty substantial in my opinion.
So
And I've never been out there before till.
we should look at a designated area and what that would look like
Take that
at some point. I mean, we got a whole nother year.
from the home to the swimming area. You can't shoot in that area.
Well, there was a lot of young kids at the swimming area, the whole.
The urban counties are kind of that way. You buy the fireworks here, you shoot them here.
Well, just
And I,
like
you know,
the city of Hillsborough, they've got, I mean, when I lived in Hillsborough, everybody shot out in the streets.
Right.
So you got two issues out there. You've got, number one, you've got the improvement district, the residential areas, they should police themselves. You know, within Lakeshore Drive, commission could probably establish,
Within and on Lakeshore Drive.
yeah,
I just thought there was,
or inside of it.
And
I thought there was too much public discharge right there in front of the lake hole and the swimming area, and the band was playing, so we had hundreds of people subjected to.
It's just no fun.
Huh?
It's just no fun.
right.
Fortunately, nobody's gotten hurt, so.
Okay. We will put it as a discussion somewhere
Before next.
before next
season.
board.
Before, a week before it.
No, we'll probably take it up. Isaac will be in at some point talking about an issue. Try to incorporate it then.
incorporate it and let him
Let him make that decision.
kind of decide.
For his opinion, like.
I mean, there may be portions out there where we don't care what they do, and maybe it's just around the lake hall that we just restrict it.
That was probably the biggest congregation of people and where there was safety issues in my opinion.
Going once, going twice. Any more? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Clark. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.